Unit 2-1. Focus. Listen to a conversation in a university office.
Good afternoon. May I help you?
Hello. I'm thinking of taking Dr. Perry's class this summer, Intro to Political Science, and I was wondering, do you happen to have a book list for that class?
I can check the computer to see if she submitted it yet.
Thanks. I'd appreciate it.
Did you say Introduction to Political Science?
Yes, for summer session.
Here it is. I found it. Oh, and it sure looks like a substantial amount of reading.
Really? Is it long?
Would you like me to print out a copy for you?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. This will only take a few minutes.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
What is the subject of the conversation? Exercise 2-1A. Listen to a conversation between two students.
Hi, Kelsey. How's it going?
Well, I don't know. I just got my history paper back, and my professor didn't grade it. He just wrote on it, "Come and talk to me about this."
Really? Is that all he said? Didn't he make any other comments?
No. So I'm really confused. This is the first time I ever got a paper back with no grade on it.
That is strange, isn't it?
Sure is. I did everything I was supposed to. I mean, I followed the instructions of the assignment.
You'd better go talk to him. You need to find out what he's thinking.
Yeah, I will. I hope he doesn't ask me to rewrite the paper.
What is the woman's problem? Question 2. Listen to a conversation between two students.
I don't know about you, but I sure am ready for spring break.
Are you doing anything special?
I'm going to Mexico to hang out on the beach. 4 of us will be staying at a resort owned by Maria's family. How about you?
I wish I could do the same. Unfortunately, I told my brother I would help him move. But I don't mind. It's my turn. He's done so much for me in the past.
Well, I'll be thinking of you as I bask in the sun.
Gee, thanks. I'll repay the favor someday.
What is the conversation mainly about? Question 3. Listen to a conversation between two students.
What courses will you be taking next semester?
I won't be taking any courses. I'll be doing an internship instead.
Oh, really? Where?
At the Children's Union. It's a non-profit agency that works on children's issues like education, nutrition, crime, family issues, even music and the arts.
That sounds like a great experience because you want to work in that area.
Yes, I do, and I'm really excited. The position is actually very political. I'll be traveling all over the state, helping to organize events in a lot of different places. I may even get to spend some time in the state capital.
Excellent. I'm sure you'll learn a lot. Good luck.
Thanks. I hope this will lead to a job after graduation.
What is the woman mainly discussing? Questions 4 through 5. Listen to part of a discussion between two students.
Are you ready for our first quiz in botany?
I guess so. If only I could remember the difference between xylem and phloem. I can't seem to get it straight on which one goes up and which one goes down.
I always think of a tree and imagine a P at the top, up in the branches, and an X at the bottom, down in the roots. P is above X in the tree, just as P comes before X in alphabetical order.
Okay, now what?
Well, if P is up in the branches, it has to go down.
Okay, then it's phloem that goes down.
Right, and X is down in the roots, so it has to go up.
Xylem is down, so it must go up. Xylem up, phloem down.
Right. Now just imagine your tree tomorrow during the quiz.
Number 4. What problem does the man have? Number 5. How does the woman help the man? Exercise 2.1. Listen to part of a talk given to first-year university students.
The place to go for parking permits is the Safety and Security Office on the first floor of the University Services Building. Parking permits are required for all on-campus parking. Special permits are available for students who carpool. You can also get passes for the 4th Avenue Garage, bus passes, and maps there. The hours are 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Thursday and 8 to 4 on Fridays. Safety and Security also provides special services 24 hours a day. These include escort service to and from your car, criminal incident reporting and investigation, lost and found, and battery jumper service.
What is the talk mainly about? Question 2. Listen to part of a lecture in an American Studies class.
Although the original American Indian cultures were highly diverse, they were similar in many of their traditions. Religious beliefs and rituals permeated every aspect of Indian life. Southwest tribes such as the Hopi and the Apaches had a rich and elaborate year-round sequence of ceremonials including songs, dances, and poetry. The Hopi performed dances to bring rain. The Apaches engaged in special dances and ceremonies to gain the support of the spirits before undertaking raids or going into war. The Plains tribes often sought contact with the spirits by going on a vision quest.
What is the topic of the lecture? Question 3. Listen to part of a talk in a business class.
Each kind of insurance protects its policyholder against possible financial loss. Life insurance pays your family a certain sum upon your death. The purpose of life insurance is to provide your family with financial security, an immediate estate that will allow them to maintain the household after you die. Health insurance protects you against large medical expenses. When you pay premiums to your insurance company, you can ensure payment of your medical bills. Another kind, property liability insurance, is sometimes called casualty insurance because it covers the cost of accidents, like automobile accidents, fire, and theft. If you're like most people, your home is the largest single investment you make in your life. This is why most homeowners have some type of property liability insurance.
Which of the following best describes the organization of the talk? Question 4. Listen to part of a lecture in a geography class.
The dunes called Spirit Sands make up the Manitoba Desert, Canada's only desert. These 5 kilometers of dunes were formed 10,000 years ago when an ancient river dumped billions of tons of sand and gravel at the edge of a glacial lake. The dunes of Spirit Sands are constantly changing. They are truly rolling dunes. Here's how it works. The sand in each dune becomes progressively finer toward the top. The heavier particles tend to settle at the base on the windward side. The wind blows the finer particles up the slope, and eventually they kind of trickle down the other side. Thus the dune sort of walks downwind. It will reverse direction when the wind changes. Each dune is covered with tiny rolling waves, and each wave itself is a tiny dune.
What is the lecture mainly about? Question 5. Listen to part of a lecture in a biochemistry class.
There have been several influential studies in pain management. Some of the most interesting of these study endorphins, the body's own natural painkillers. For example, we now know that exercise stimulates the production of endorphins. Lack of exercise, on the other hand, not only shuts down endorphin production, but can also lead to muscle deterioration. This is why you see a lot of pain specialists prescribing exercise for patients with chronic pain. Another interesting area involves the power of the placebo effect. We've known for some time that a sugar pill, or other inactive placebo, can sometimes make a sick person feel better. Somehow, the power of suggestion, or faith in the doctor, or the drug, will start a process of healing. We now think a neurochemical component. What may actually happen is the placebo effect allows some people to sort of tap into the supply of endorphins in their own brains.
What is the lecture mainly about? Exercise 2.1.1. Listen to part of a lecture in a psychology class.
One study on aging suggests that the key to a longer life might be the way you think about yourself as you get older. That is, how you see your own aging. The researchers found that people who view aging positively live longer than people who view it negatively. This study began 26 years ago and took place in a small town in the Midwest. The participants were 640 men and women who were 50 to 90 years old at the time. The subjects were asked to agree or disagree with statements about aging. For example, statements like, as you get older, you become less useful, and older people can't learn new skills. The data showed that respondents with the most positive attitudes survived a median of 22 years after their initial interview, while those with negative views lived just 15 years, a difference of 7 years.
What is the speaker's main point? Questions 2 through 3. Listen to part of a talk given by an academic advisor.
A bachelor's degree in engineering is the generally accepted educational requirement for most entry-level engineering jobs. In a typical 4-year engineering program, the first 2 years are spent studying basic sciences, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and introductory engineering, and the humanities, social sciences, and English. The last 2 years are devoted to specialized engineering courses. Some programs offer a general engineering curriculum, letting students choose a specialty in graduate school or to acquire one later on the job. Several engineering schools have formal arrangements with liberal arts colleges. Programs, for example, where a student spends 3 years in a liberal arts college studying a pre-engineering subject and a couple years in an engineering school and then receives a bachelor's degree from each school. Now, most engineers have some training beyond the bachelor's degree. An advanced degree is desirable for promotion or is necessary to keep up with new technology. Graduate training is essential for most teaching and research positions. Now, a number of colleges and universities offer 5-year master's degree programs, offering an accelerated, intensive program of study. Some schools, particularly the state technical schools, have 5 or 6-year cooperative programs where students coordinate classroom study with practical work experience. These programs are popular because in addition to gaining useful job experience, students can finance part of their education.
Number 2. What is the speaker mainly discussing? Number 3. How does the speaker organize the information that he presents? Questions 4 through 5. Listen to part of a talk in a health class.
RSI, repetitive strain injury, is probably the fastest growing job-related illness. We hear about RSI so much today because of high-speed keyboard technology. Repetitive strain injury, also called repetitive motion syndrome, is a real problem for people who sit at the computer all day. RSI is brought on by doing the same movements with the arms and hands over and over again all day long. This type of injury, RSI, it's been a problem for a long time for violinists, typists, mechanics, construction workers, anyone whose job involves repeated wrist movements.
My mother used to work in the lab at St. Peter's, and she got something like that. She worked there for around 15 years, and it got to the point where she couldn't handle the instruments anymore. You could hear her fingers crack and pop when she moved them.
Your mother may have had RSI, a serious case from the sound of it. RSI affects different people differently. Some people get an inflammation of the sheathing around the tendons in the hand called tendinitis. The inflammation makes your fingers painful and hard to straighten. It's possible your mother's problem was tendinitis. A more serious condition that a lot of workers develop is carpal tunnel syndrome, and that's when the nerves that go through the wrist to the hand are pinched by swollen tissue. The swelling causes a numbness or tingling sensation in the hand, and pain shoots up from the wrist, either up the arm or down into the hand. The pain can be so bad at night it wakes you up.
Number 4. What aspect of RSI does the instructor mainly discuss? Number 5. How does the instructor develop the topic of RSI? Unit 2.2. Focus. Listen to a professor talk about hearing loss.
Long-term exposure to noise can lead to loss of hearing. The relative loudness of sounds is measured in decibels. Just to give you an idea of what this means, the sound of a whisper is 30 decibels, while a normal conversation is 60 decibels. The noise a vacuum cleaner makes is around 85 decibels. The danger zone, the risk of injury, begins at around 90. Continual exposure to sounds above 90 decibels can damage your hearing. Loud noises, especially when they come at you every day, all this noise can damage the delicate hair cells in your inner ear. Lots of everyday noises are bad for us in the long run. For example, a car horn sounds at around 100 decibels. A rock band at close range is 125 decibels. A jet engine at close range is one of the worst culprits at an ear-busting 140 decibels. The first thing to go is your high-frequency hearing, where you detect the consonant sounds in words. That's why a person with hearing loss can hear voices, but has trouble understanding what's being said.
Now choose the best answer to each question. Number 1. At what decibel level does the risk of hearing loss begin? Number 2. Which sounds could contribute to hearing loss? Exercise 2. Questions 1 through 2. Listen to a conversation between two students.
I had a lot of expenses this quarter, and the money my parents sent didn't last very long. I may have to get some kind of job.
You can probably find something right here on campus. You should check out the job board in the Student Center.
Where is that exactly?
In the Student Center on the first floor next to counseling. In fact, I think it's part of the counseling center. You can ask one of the counselors if you want more information about any of the jobs listed.
My problem is that I need the money, but I don't have a lot of spare time. I'd like a quiet job that would allow me to get some reading done.
Then go on over there. Maybe there's an opening for night watchman.
Number 1. What does the woman suggest the man do? Number 2. What type of job does the man want? Questions 3 through 5. Listen to a conversation on a college campus.
Hey, Lori, are you doing anything on Wednesday afternoon?
I usually either go to the computer lab or go home after I get out of class. Why?
Well, we're having our annual book sale at the library, and we need extra cashiers.
When is the sale?
All day Wednesday, from 10 until 6. The busiest time will be from around noon to 3. If you're free in the afternoon, why not volunteer to help us out? The library will give you $10 in book credit for every hour you work. You have to use the credit at this sale, but that will get you a lot of books. Most are priced around $1 or $2.
Why are you selling books from the library?
The sale includes mostly books people have donated to the library. There are a lot of paperbacks and things like encyclopedias.
Oh, I see. I guess I could spare a few hours.
Great. I can put your name down then?
Sure. I'll be there around noon.
Thanks, Lori.
Number 3. What does the woman agree to do? Number 4. How are book sale workers compensated? Number 5. When will the woman arrive at the book sale? Questions 6 through 7. Listen to a conversation between two students.
How do you like your classes this term?
All of my classes are really good. I especially like political science with Professor Hahn.
Oh, I had Professor Hahn for American history. We had to write a lot of papers, but one time we had a debate, and I'll never forget that.
Her assignments are challenging, but useful, and she has the most interesting stories to illustrate her lectures. She really makes us think.
And she really makes you work in her class.
I know, but I'm starting to figure things out as a result of this class.
Great.
Number 6. Why does the woman like her class with Professor Hahn? Number 7. What does the man say about Professor Hahn? Questions 8 through 10. Listen to a conversation between a student and a professor.
Professor Abram, did you want to see me?
Yes, please come in, Nina. I have a job here that I hope you can help me with.
I'd like to if I can.
Well, see this stack of paper? These are all journal articles that I need to go through for my research. It would really help if they were arranged more logically. Can you help me? I imagine it will take a few hours of your time.
Yes, of course I can. How do you want them organized?
Well, primarily by subject and then by date. There are articles from the past 4 or 5 years. Most are about primate behavior, but a few deal with other mammals or birds or with behavioral psychology in general.
This will be interesting. I have some free time tomorrow afternoon. Would that be all right?
That sounds perfect.
Number 8. What does the professor want the woman to do? Number 9. What is the subject of the professor's research? Number 10. When will the woman do the work? Exercise 2-2, questions 1 through 4. Listen to part of a discussion in an anthropology class.
The men of the North Woods tribes were the hunters. The hunting season began in the fall and continued until midwinter. These expeditions frequently took the hunters away from the village for long periods of time. Moose, deer, beaver, bear, and elk were the animals sought. Large deer drives were common, and small animals were taken with snares or the bow and arrow.
Did the women ever go hunting with the men?
The women often accompanied their husbands on hunting parties. Their job was to take charge of the camps.
Do you mean they just cooked for the men? I thought the Native Americans had more of a system of equality.
Overall, men and women shared the labor. On hunting expeditions, women basically supported the men whose job was to procure the game. On the other hand, women controlled other realms of life. For example, women managed all of the agricultural operations. Also, a woman headed each clan, and these women were respected for their role as keepers of the clan.
Number 1. When did the hunting season take place? Number 2. What animals did the North Woods tribes hunt? Number 3. According to the man, how did women participate in hunting? Number 4. Which activities did women control? Questions 5 through 7. Listen to part of a talk in an introductory art class. The professor is talking about choosing a career in the arts.
Before you undertake a career in the arts, there are a number of factors to consider. Whether your goal is to be an actor or an animator, a saxophonist or a sculptor, talent is an essential consideration. But talent alone won't guarantee a successful career in the arts. You also need training, experience, and self-discipline. Most importantly, however, you should realize that a career in the arts requires a personal sense of commitment, a calling, because art does have a history of insecure employment. A lot of artists find it difficult, even impossible, to live on the money they make from their art. Most have to supplement their income by teaching or by working behind the scenes or by doing other work not related to the arts.
In your opinion, what's the best way for us to know if we really have a calling to art?
Well, those of you who are interested in art as a career should talk with arts professionals or work in the arts yourselves. Professionals can give good first-hand advice, but experience is the best way to get a feel for the field.
What kind of experience? I mean, how do we get started?
Experience doesn't have to be formal. It can be part-time or volunteer work. For example, if you want to be a photographer or graphic designer, you could work for your school newspaper. Or if your interest is acting, you could start out in community theater. The important thing is getting started, spending time doing something in your chosen medium.
Number 5. According to the professor, what factors are important in choosing a career in the arts? Number 6. According to the professor, why does a career in the arts require a special calling? Number 7. How does the professor suggest one get started in a career in the arts? Questions 8 through 10. Listen to a discussion in a speech communications class.
For your speaking assignment, you will want to follow a logical series of steps in preparing for your speech. The first step, of course, is to realize the importance of the speech to you.
But isn't that always the same in this class? After all, you give us an assignment and we want to get a good grade for it.
Yes, that's true, but the grade isn't the only thing that's important.
Yeah, Paul, think of us, your listeners. We want you to believe in what you're saying.
Next, of course, you select your subject. Then decide on your purpose. Do you simply want to inform us about your subject, or do you want to influence us in some way? Write down a statement of exactly what you wish to accomplish in the speech. This is the first step in organizing your thoughts.
Is entertainment a purpose?
It could be, yes. Your purpose could be to make your audience laugh.
I expect you to be really funny, Paul.
After you decide on your purpose and organize your ideas, you are ready to develop your ideas interestingly and soundly. Why don't you all just take a few minutes to start brainstorming? Jot down ideas that come to mind, things that matter to you, things you feel strongly about.
Number 8. According to the instructor, what is the first step in preparing a speech? Number 9. What examples of purpose are mentioned in the discussion? Number 10. What does the instructor want the students to do next? Exercise 2-2, questions 1 through 3. Listen to part of a talk in a geography class.
Now we'll turn our attention to a type of local wind known as the sea breeze. The sea breeze is the simplest, most widespread, and most persistent of local winds. The sea breeze results from the heating of land and sea along a coastline in near calm conditions. The more rapid heating of the land during the daytime results in the development of a temperature gradient across the coast. This leads to ascent over the land and descent over the sea. Thus, a pressure gradient causes a flow of air from sea to land. At the same time as the breeze flows from sea to land, there is a return flow higher up from land to sea. The airflow forms a circular pattern from sea to land upwards and back out to sea. The flow develops through the day and by the middle of the afternoon may extend several kilometers inland. At night, the situation is reversed and the flow is from the colder land to the warmer sea as a land breeze.
Number 1. What is the main topic of the talk? Number 2. Select the diagram that represents the sea breeze. Number 3. Identify the part of the diagram that shows the sea breeze's return flow. Questions 4 through 5. Listen to part of a talk in a music history class.
The simplest type of horn is made from an animal horn, and animal horns are the model for other primitive horns, made of shells, wood, animal hide, or clay. The sound is produced by vibrations from the player's lips. Now, some horns are blown at the end, and some are blown on the side. Most primitive horns are end-blown. Unless the horn has finger holes, it will have a limited melodic range. Horns have been around since very early times. In the Middle Ages in Europe, they were used almost exclusively in hunting and warfare. From about the 14th century onward, metal horns with special mouthpieces were developed, and this increased the horn's versatility. In the 18th century, the horn became a regular member of the orchestra. Various types of horns are still widely used for signaling and ritual. The bugle is a simple horn dating from the Middle Ages that was first used for hunting and signaling. Starting in the 19th century, it became standard in military bands.
Number 4. What topics does the speaker discuss? Number 5. When did the horn become a standard part of the orchestra? Questions 6 through 10. Listen to a talk in an earth science class. The professor is talking about tsunamis.
The term tidal wave is often inaccurately used for a tsunami. Tsunamis have nothing to do with the action of tides. A more accurate term is seismic sea wave. There has to be a disturbance of the Earth's crust to produce a tsunami. Large earthquakes with epicenters under or near the ocean are the cause of most tsunamis. Volcanic eruptions and undersea landslides are also responsible, but unless accompanied by movements of the ocean floor, their effects are usually localized. Possibly this was true about the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883. A tsunami was responsible for most of the deaths caused by Krakatoa, yet this tsunami did not sink any ships. It did wash away several coastal villages and kill more than 36,000 people. Tsunamis work in complex ways. Some pounce on coastal settlements like large breakers. Others produce a gentle wave that floats buildings off their foundations. But then a violent backwash may sweep buildings and people out to sea. The tsunami that wrecked Hilo, Hawaii in 1946 was so forceful it folded parking meters. It caused needless deaths when people returned to save their belongings and got caught between waves. The deeper the water, the lower the tsunami and the faster it moves. In the open ocean, it travels at about 700 kilometers per hour, but being sometimes no more than a meter in height, a tsunami often passes a ship unnoticed. This is what happened in 1896 during a catastrophic tsunami in Japan, which was the result of an undersea earthquake. Thousands of people were drowned on shore, while fishermen far out at sea didn't notice the waves passing beneath their boats. But when they went home, they found their villages destroyed.
Number 6. How does the professor develop the topic of tsunamis? Number 7. Why is the term tidal wave inaccurate for a tsunami? Number 8. What causes tsunamis? Number 9. What point does the professor make about the eruption of the volcano Krakatoa? Number 10. What is true of the tsunami that struck Japan in 1896? Exercise 2-2, questions 1 through 2. Listen to a discussion between two students.
That was a pretty good history lecture, don't you think?
Well, to be honest, I didn't understand what Dr. Marquez meant by partible inheritance, and it seems like that's an important thing to know.
Partible inheritance means that a man's property would be divided equally among all his children, after the man died, that is.
Oh, then what's primogeniture?
That's when all the property goes to the eldest son. Just think about the word primogenitor. Primo means one, or first, right?
Right. Oh, I get it. Primogeniture is when the first son gets everything.
That's right.
Now it's starting to make sense.
Number 1. What are the students discussing? Number 2. What does primogeniture mean? Questions 3 through 5. Listen to part of a discussion in a business class. The professor is talking about small businesses.
Small business owners usually consider themselves successful when they can support themselves solely from the profits of their business. So why do so many small businesses fail each year? Well, for one thing, they usually face stiff competition from larger, more established companies. Large companies generally have cash reserves that enable them to absorb losses more easily than small firms can. Still, with the right combination of factors, a small business can do quite well.
My friend has a bicycle shop, and he runs the entire operation by himself. He buys the inventory, repairs bicycles, and sells to customers. He also builds the displays and cleans the shop. He does everything, and he manages to stay in business.
It is possible to make it, with hard work, good management, and a product or service for which there's a demand. A small business owner performs a lot of different tasks. It's absolutely essential to be a competent manager, as I'm sure your friend is. You also need to have a thorough knowledge of your field, a combination of formal education and practical training suited to your kind of business. To run a store, for example, you need to know how to keep track of your inventory, what you have to sell, and your accounts, so you need courses in accounting and business. Experience in retailing is helpful, too. Your primary responsibilities center on planning, management, and marketing, so organizational skills are a must. To keep your store in business, you have to adapt to changing market conditions. This means improving services or promoting your products in innovative ways.
Number 3. According to the professor, why do many small businesses fail? Number 4. According to the professor, what is essential for success as a small business owner? Number 5. What are 2 responsibilities of a store owner? Questions 6 through 10. Listen to a discussion between a student and a biology teaching assistant.
Hi, Gordon.
Hello, Julie. How are you?
Fine. I wonder if I could ask you a few questions.
Sure. What's on your mind?
Well, something happened. I saw something happen on a hike I did last weekend, and I was wondering if it sort of fit what we learned about muscle cells.
This sounds like it might be interesting. What did you see?
Well, I was hiking with my friend on the Desert Canyon Trail, and we ran into these two guys sitting by the side of the trail. It turns out they were part of a high school group. My friend and I stopped to talk to them, and it turns out that one of them was sort of having trouble. He said he'd been having leg cramps for about 5 hours.
Ooh, that's not good on the canyon trail.
I know. We asked if they had water and food, and they said a little, but their teacher went back to get some more. The guy with the cramps said he didn't feel like eating, so we gave them one of our water bottles, and we just went on. Later on the way back, we ran into them again. This time, the teacher and the ranger were there. The guy was eating saltine crackers. It turns out he skipped breakfast that day.
Well, that was a dumb thing to do. A strenuous hike in the desert is not the time to diet.
So I wondered if his muscle cramps were because of what we talked about in class, because lactic acid ferments when the cell has no oxygen?
I'd say that's what happened with this young man. Do you remember why it happens?
Well, I know that human muscle cells make ATP by lactic acid fermentation when oxygen is scarce. It's what happens during exercise, when ATP production needs more oxygen than the muscles can supply. The cells then have to switch from aerobic respiration to fermentation. This means lactate collects in the muscle as a waste product, and that causes muscle pain.
That's absolutely correct. And the young man made his problem worse by not eating after he first experienced cramps. He was simply out of fuel. His teacher did the right thing by getting him to eat something salty.
I guess it's important to balance food and water intake.
That's right. Well, Julie, it looks like you saw biology in action.
Yeah, it's cool. I can really understand what happened.
Number 6. What does the woman want to discuss with the teaching assistant? Number 7. Where did the woman meet the young man who had a problem? Number 8. What help did the young man receive? Number 9. Why did the young man experience muscle cramps? Number 10. What point does the teaching assistant make about what the woman saw? Exercise 2-2, questions 1 through 5. Listen to a talk in an art class. The instructor is talking about pigments.
Whether you're working with oil, tempera, or watercolor, it's the pigment that gives the paint its color. A pigment can either be mixed with another material or applied over its surface in a thin layer. When a pigment is mixed or ground in a liquid vehicle to form paint, it does not dissolve but remains suspended in the liquid. A paint pigment should be a smooth, finely divided powder. It should withstand the action of sunlight without changing color. A pigment should not exert a harmful chemical reaction upon the medium or upon other color pigments it is mixed with. Generally, pigments are classified according to their origin, either natural or synthetic. Natural inorganic pigments, also known as mineral pigments, include the native earths such as ochre, yellow iron oxide, and raw umber, brown iron oxide. Natural organic pigments come from vegetable and animal sources. Some examples are indigo from the indigo plant, and Tyrian purple, the imperial purple the Romans prepared from a shellfish native to the Mediterranean. Today, many pigments are synthetic varieties of traditional inorganic and organic pigments. Synthetic organic pigments provide colors of unmatched intensity and tinting strength. The synthetic counterparts of the yellow and red earths are more brilliant and if well prepared, are superior in all other respects to the native products. Inorganic synthetic colors made with the aid of strong heat are generally the most permanent for all uses. In contrast, pigments from natural sources are less permanent than the average synthetic color.
Number 1. What is a pigment? Number 2. According to the instructor, what characteristic should a pigment have? Number 3. How are pigments generally classified? Number 4. Which natural pigment did the Romans obtain from a shellfish? Number 5. According to the instructor, why are synthetic pigments superior to natural pigments? Questions 6 through 10. Listen to part of a lecture in a geology class. The professor is talking about volcanoes.
A volcano is a vent in the earth which erupts when hot liquefied rock or magma moves to the earth's surface, pouring out as lava. The lava may flow out as a liquid, or it may explode from the vent as solid or liquid particles accompanied by superheated gases. Ash and cinders form a cone around the vent. There are several types of volcanoes. The most fluid magmas erupt quietly and flow from the vent to form gently sloping shield volcanoes. The name shield volcano comes from their resemblance to the shields of early Germanic warriors. The lava flows from shield volcanoes are usually only 1 to 10 meters thick, but may extend for great distances from the vent. The volcanoes of Hawaii and Iceland are typical volcanoes of this type. Cinder cone volcanoes are formed when magmas with high gas contents and high viscosity are blown high into the air during an eruption. The magma falls as volcanic bombs, which accumulate around the vent and form steep-sided cones. Calderas, large basin-like depressions, are formed when a violent eruption blows the top off of an existing cone, or when the center of a volcano collapses. One famous caldera covers much of Yellowstone National Park. 600,000 years ago, there was a huge volcanic explosion which devastated the landscape. At the center, there remained only a smoldering caldera, a collapsed crater more than 40 miles wide. Yellowstone's famous geysers and hot springs lie within this giant basin.
Number 6. What aspect of volcanoes does the professor mainly discuss? Number 7. Identify the types of substances that erupt from volcanoes. Number 8. Select the picture that is most like a shield volcano. Number 9. Select the picture that is most like a caldera. Number 10. Which type of volcano is associated with the geysers in Yellowstone National Park? Quiz 1. Listen to a discussion in a business class.
The computerized workplace can be hazardous to your health if you don't take preventative measures. Today, we'll go over what some of these hazards are, and more importantly, what can be done about them. One major complaint, maybe the biggest complaint, of people who spend time at the computer is eye strain. To help ease the strain on the eyes, the computer screen should be about 2 feet from your eyes. The entire screen should be in focus. The brightness and contrast should be adjusted for best readability. A good way to relieve eye strain is to look away from the screen frequently. Focus your eyes on objects that are far away, like something outside, the building across the street or the tree in the parking lot.
But what if your office doesn't have a window? I mean, I've worked in lots of places where there's no window.
Then in that case, you need to get up and walk around. You should never sit for more than 30 minutes at a time anyway. This is important for the rest of your body as well, namely your back. Neck and back pain are a big problem for computer people. Always make sure your screen, keyboard, and chair are at the right height for you.
I think it's important to have a comfortable chair, one that sort of shifts your weight a little bit forward. I put a cushion on my chair, and that really helps my lower back.
That's not a bad idea. The right chair is a must, the right posture as well. Remember what your mother told you. Sit up straight with your feet on the floor. Another thing I wanted to talk about is air pollution in the workplace. Sorry, did you have a question, Martha?
I've heard that copy machines are bad for you. Is there anything to this?
Photocopy machines aren't a health hazard for people who use them only occasionally. But for people who use them a lot, there can be bad effects. For example, people who handle the toners can get skin rashes. If you handle the toner, you should pour it in slowly to avoid spreading the dust. And always wash your hands afterward. Another problem, if the machines are in an area that's not well ventilated, is ozone.
Ozone? No kidding.
It's true. Almost all photocopiers give off some ozone. However, the amount is usually less than what's considered hazardous. Most machines have an ozone filter, but this can still leak if the machine's not properly maintained. If you can smell a sort of electrical odor coming from the machine, it's a sign that it's giving off too much ozone.
Number 1. What is the discussion mainly about? Number 2. What does the instructor recommend for relieving eye strain? Number 3. According to the discussion, why is it important to have the right chair? Number 4. According to the instructor, what health problem is associated with copy machines? Number 5. Where in the workplace might ozone be a problem? Questions 6 through 10. Listen to a talk in a drawing class.
Today we'll begin our discussion on perspective, or how to represent three-dimensional forms on a two-dimensional surface. The basic rules of perspective date back to the early Renaissance and are still used today. Perspective can be challenging when you're first learning to draw from observation, but it's essential to grasp if you want your drawings to represent the visual world as you see it. An understanding of perspective is mandatory for anyone who does representational drawing. This includes professionals in a variety of fields: interior design, illustration, architecture, industrial design, and fine arts, to name a few. Simply put, perspective allows us to differentiate between objects of different sizes and at different distances from the viewer. It enables us to see immediately what the relationships are. The fundamental principle is that objects appear smaller as their distance from the observer increases. For instance, someone across the street appears smaller than the person standing next to you. Someone down the street looks even smaller, someone farther away looks smaller still, and so on. Think of buildings in a landscape, the cross ties of railroad tracks, the cars on a train. These are just a few things we know are approximately equal in size, yet seem to diminish with distance because of perspective. Everything in perspective is related to the concept of eye level, the horizontal line at the level of your eyes as you turn your head from side to side. Another related concept is the vanishing point. The vanishing point is a point at eye level where parallel lines going away from you appear to come together and then vanish. When you draw a building, for example, the vanishing point makes the building sort of recede in space and grow smaller. Yet in reality, you know the sides of the building are parallel. If lines are drawn along these sides, they will converge at a distant point, the vanishing point. In real life, the eye level is rarely visible and vanishing points virtually never are. Yet it's important for you to always work with an awareness of them. This is why I advise you to sketch eye level and vanishing points in every drawing, at least temporarily. Eye level and vanishing points will help you convey perspective. As you gain an understanding of perspective, you'll find that your work is more confident and you're better able to create a finished drawing from your sketches.
Number 6. What aspect of perspective does the instructor mainly discuss? Number 7. According to the instructor, which fields require an understanding of perspective? Number 8. Select the drawing that illustrates the concept of perspective. Number 9. Identify the part of the drawing that represents the vanishing point. Number 10. What does the instructor advise the students to do?